Welcome back to the Casual Ethnographer. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been exploring the deep symbolism of hair, how it shaped identity, reflected power, and held meaning across time and cultures. Today, we bring that journey to a close with part 3. This final chapter takes us into sacred traditions, lesser-known cultural practices, and the biology written into our strands. From ancient rituals to modern genetics, from reverence to resistance, we'll look at what hair continues to reveal about us. Let's begin. Hair tells stories, deeply personal ones, yes, but also cultural, mythological, religious, genetic, and medical. In this final installment of our series, we will follow those threads wherever they lead. Sacred hair, ritualized hair, hair as an offering, hair as a marker of faith, hair as a link to the divine, and even hair as vegetation in fertile land. Let's start where we often end, with ceremony. For many, hair is not merely a material to be washed, cut, or styled. It is spiritual. It is sacred. In Islam, modesty, haya, is a core principle, and hair becomes a part of that spiritual practice. Hair is part of cleanliness and devotion. During Hajj, the pilgrimage to Mecca, shaving the head is an act of spiritual renewal and humility. For men, shaving is common. Women cut a small portion of their hair instead. In many Islamic traditions, a child's hair is also shaved in the days after birth, in a ritual called akikah, often associated with charity and blessing. Many Muslim women wear hijab as an outward sign of faith and humility, though the styles and materials vary widely by region, culture, and personal choice. For men, too, grooming standards are rooted in hadith, sayings attributed to the Prophet Muhammad. Keeping the beard, trimming the mustache, those are signs of cleanliness and dignity. In Judaism, hair is deeply entwined with modesty and religious duty. Among Orthodox Jewish men, you'll often see payat, those side locks grown long in obedience to Leviticus 19:27. You shall not round off the side growth of your head or destroy the edges of your beard. Interpretations of this verse vary, but in Hasidic communities, the side locks are a public sign of religious identity and adherence to halakha, Jewish law. For women in these communities, hair covering after marriage is an act of modesty and spiritual privacy. Wigs, called shadels, scarves, and hats are used not to hide beauty necessarily, but to mark a shift in spiritual and social status. What's interesting is that while the act of covering is about concealment, the styles and materials of those coverings become deeply expressive. The act is not about shame, but sanctity, a way to draw a boundary between the intimate and the public. Both religions hold hair not as shameful, but as powerful, something to honor and protect. In both cases, religious rules around hair intersect with cultural, governmental, and gender dynamics, especially where secular laws conflict with spiritual ones. It is worth noting that while many hair-related customs carry deep cultural significance, some, like these, are explicitly rooted in religious law or spiritual covenant. Hair even becomes a medium of sacrifice. In Hinduism, tonsure, shaving of the head, is practiced in temples like Tirupati, where devotees offer their hair to the deity as a form of devotion and surrender. The hair is then sold to fund charitable works. Among the Yanomami people of the Amazon, hair is not just adornment, it is part of the soul. When a person dies, their hair is collected and preserved. Later, it may be mixed with ashes and consumed by family members in a ritual that honors the dead and keeps their spirit within the living. It's a sacred tradition rooted in their cosmology, honoring the cyclical relationship between life, death, and kinship. This is more than symbolism. It's kinship, it's memory, it's the literal embodiment of what it means to carry someone with you. But what if we look back further? Some of the oldest stories ever told speak through hair. Let's visit Iran and the epic of Shahnameh, where Rutabe lets down her long black hair from a tower to allow her lover Zal to climb up to her. Though he ultimately uses a rope, her gesture still speaks of trust, sensuality, and risk. This ancient tale predates the version we know as Rapunzel, but it carries the same idea. Hair is a bridge, a ladder, a connection. Or the Zoroastrian myth of creation, in which the god Ahura Mazda forms the world from his own being. From his hair springs vegetation. In this vision, hair is the natural world. A similar idea echoes in a Central African legend about Chelgisu, the woman with 40 hairs. Her magical hair causes the land to flourish wherever she goes, emphasizing the link between femininity, fertility, and life. In the Hindu tradition, there is a lesser-known story of Vishnu being struck on the head and losing his hair. Neela Devi offers him a lock of her own to replace it, symbolizing not just grace, but divine restoration. Hair becomes a vessel for healing, for sacrifice, for communion. And in Germany, we meet the Lorelei, a siren-like figure with long golden hair who sits atop the rocks near the Rhine River, luring sailors to their doom with her beauty and singing. Here, hair becomes both a lure and a warning, danger and enchantment entwined. The German tale, The Devil with the Three Golden Hairs, also sees hair as the key to wisdom and triumph. The devil's golden hairs are plucked to secure the hero's happy ending. A golden strand is a secret, a truth, a gift. In Australian Aboriginal traditions, hair appears in the form of legendary creatures like the Yowie, a hairy towering being not unlike Bigfoot. Here, hair marks the primal and the unknown. The bunyip, another creature, is often depicted with a thick mane or hair-like features. These stories reflect hair as a connection to wildness, untamed land, and the edge of human understanding. Even today, our hair can signal something primal. In times of grief, it is cut off. In times of joy, it is adorned. But there's another layer, what we inherit. Let's talk science. Hair texture and color are governed by a complex web of genetics. We now know that curl pattern isn't simply dominant or recessive. It's polygenic, meaning multiple genes influence the shape of the hair follicle and how hair grows from it. It's influenced by many genes working together, not a single dominant recessive pair. This is why siblings with the same parents can have completely different hair. Round follicles typically produce straight hair, while oval or kidney-shaped follicles lead to waves or curls. One of the key players is the TCHH gene, which affects the structure of the hair shaft. Other genes impact keratin production, follicle shape, and even how hair reacts to humidity. Hair color is influenced by the type and concentration of melanin. The MC1R gene plays a big role in red hair, while variations in other genes control the amount and type of melanin in each strand. Eumelanin results in black or brown hair, while pheomelanin gives us red and yellow tones. A mix of both yields auburn. And yes, red hair is rare. Less than 2% of the global population has it, but not disappearing, as is often rumored. In fact, some studies suggest it may have advantages, like increased pain tolerance or different responses to anesthesia. Blonde hair, particularly among some Pacific Islander populations, has a completely different genetic origin than that found in Europe. In the Solomon Islands, for example, a gene called TYRP1 is responsible for blonde hair, and it developed independently from European lineages. Here is a record of our ancestors, a map of where we've been and who we come from. There's something beautiful about that, isn't there? That we carry the story of our ancestors, the climates they lived in, the paths they traveled, the adaptations they made, right there on our heads. Hair is often policed, not just by biology or religion, but by society. Who gets to grow it, cut it, cover it, or show it? That's where power lives. An anthropology professor once told me, culture is what protects humans from nature. Customs, rituals, clothing, food, these evolve to shield us from the environment. But sometimes those customs grow so rigid that they stop protecting everyone, and instead they protect the most fragile members of the community, often to the detriment of others. And sometimes those rules are about controlling women. In many cultures, women's hair become a focal point for male anxiety, about sexuality, about independence, about visibility. Hair gets covered, cut, shamed, worshipped. It becomes the boundary between what is allowed and what is feared. But hair is resilient, and so are we. It's deeply honest. It reveals, it archives, it mourns, it celebrates, and even when it's gone, its absence speaks volumes. There are also places where hair intersects with health. Hair thinning or loss can be one of the first visible signs of internal imbalance. For example, polycystic ovarian syndrome, a hormonal disorder affecting up to 1 in 10 women of reproductive age, often causes androgenic hair loss at the crown or hairline, mimicking male pattern baldness. At the same time, excess androgens may lead to hirsutism or unwanted facial and body hair, especially along the jaw, chin, and upper lip. In this condition, hair tells a conflicted story of loss and excess, of internal hormone shifts mirrored on the skin. For those of us living with PCOS, the changes in hair growth aren't just cosmetic. They can feel like a betrayal of our bodies, a daily reminder of what's been taken. Chin hairs and thinning crowns, compounded by infertility or costly treatments, often carry grief that's both private and persistent. Thyroid disorders can also make themselves known through the scalp. Both hypothyroidism and hyperthyroidism can cause diffuse hair shedding, changes in hair texture, and thinning of the eyebrows, especially the outer third. People with hypothyroidism often report hair that becomes coarse, dry, or brittle, while hyperthyroidism may lead to soft, fine strands that fall out easily. Even temporary changes in health can affect the hair. Severe calorie restriction, malnutrition, and iron deficiency can push hair follicles into a resting phase, causing increased shedding, a condition known as telogen effluvium. This can occur months after a triggering event, making it harder to trace. Stress, illness, childbirth, or crash diets are all common causes. Hair's connection to hormone levels is not just visible, but cyclical. Estrogen, for instance, prolongs the growing phase of hair, which is why hair often appears thick and full during pregnancy and begins to shed more noticeably postpartum as hormone levels normalize. In these ways and more, hair isn't just affected by health, it reports on it. Before blood tests or biopsies, the body may already be whispering through our strands. People with albinism, for example, often have very light hair, but this trait comes with increased sensitivity to sunlight and, in some cultures, dangerous myths. In several African nations, people with albinism have been targeted in violent attacks due to the belief that their body parts have magical properties. These are not just myths, they're dangerous. Raising awareness is one step toward protecting lives and dignity. Hair color and texture can also be linked to certain medical traits. Redheads, for instance, often require more anesthesia than others due to a mutation in the MC1R gene, the same one responsible for their coloring. It's all connected: the visual, the genetic, the practical. So what do we make of all of this? Hair is more than adornment. It is identity, inheritance, protection. It is belief, rebellion, and faith. It's biology, grief, seduction, defiance, and survival. In myth, hair gives power. In history, it marks change. In life, it just keeps growing until we change it or lose it or pass it on. Hair can be a veil, a tether, a flag, a wound and a salve, a goodbye and a becoming. Maybe that's the most enduring symbolism of all. It grows from the root of who we are, and no matter what we do to it, it keeps trying to tell the truth. Thank you for spending time with me across this series, across cultures, across time, through myth and memory, faith and flesh. Hair has told our stories, and now we've told a few of them back. In all its forms, sacred or simple, public or personal, hair carries the weight of meaning. And like meaning, it evolves, endures, and often surprises us. In life, it endures as one of the most visible, tactile ways we experience self in the world. Whether wrapped in ritual, shaved in mourning, braided in community, or falling loose in the wind, hair is never just hair. It carries memory, it holds story, it reveals what we honor, what we fear, what we pass on. We began this series asking what hair means, not just to society, but to us personally. We have traveled from ancient myths to modern medicine, from sacred traditions to genetic blueprints. And here may be the greatest truth. Hair is language, and we are all fluent whether we realize it or not. So let your hair speak, who you are, where you've been, what you believe, because in every strand there's history, in every curl a map. Thank you for walking this path with me. And as always, thank you for being here. I appreciate your presence. See you next time.